Well, hello there and welcome back to the channel. It's Perry here, and yeah, these are my reading glasses. When you get my age, you definitely need these, so I try to make sure they're always on me. In fact, I was thinking about getting a pair of those ropes that, you know, like kind of like dangle down, and I'm like, man, I'm really gonna age myself, but you know, who really cares, right? Welcome back to the channel. It's Perry, and we're gonna get into a July update today. And I just felt like stepping out in front of the camera. I got a nice clean shave. What the hell, right? Anyway, you can see my reef tank here, the Innovative Marine 112 gallon cube design, 36 inches by 36 inches by 20. And of course it's lit by a sort of a hybrid system with the reef breeders being the centerpiece lighting. And that's the Reef Breeders 32 V2 Pro, I think, something like that. And then I have the two Orfex on the very ends, and in the center of them, between those and the Reef Breeders, two banks of two T5s, where I run more of a white spectrum. And my idea is to really blend the whites in, to try to capture all those missing spectrums in the T5 range. And really what I'm looking for out of the LED is mainly the blue spectrum. Now the whites, I think, do a really cool job, but the spread of the T5s really fills in all of those gaps, and for me, I feel like it's a necessary thing. Now I'm only running them rather for 5 hours a day. So I'm really looking for that midday pop, and then, you know, I'm building this spectrum to sort of curve on either side of it with that 5 to 6 hour intense peak photo period, then everything sort of ramps up and down off of that. Anyway, let's jump into the July update. So what's really happening on the Bommie right now? Things are cooking along pretty well. As a recap, I'm still using CRT concoction, which is the V3 formula, and that is the ready-made formula that Alan produced. So if you're interested in that, you can see him on Instagram at CRT Reef. Okay. It's working pretty good. I have no real complaints. I like it in the frag system. It helps me to provide an alternative feed in that microenvironment. We've kind of got into the microenvironments earlier, but really where my head is at as I'm moving forward is delving more into natural philosophies of reef keeping, and the Bommie continues to evolve. And you know, there's some things that are doing really well, and there's some things that you know, aren't. Unfortunately, I had an issue with the Skinny Love, and I'm pretty certain I'm going to end up losing it. And the one I've never featured, which was the cricket spine right next to it from Battle Corals, it too is not looking too hot. But when I look over the entire reef, I do see a sense that everything is cooking along really nicely. So I personally don't get hung up on a couple of pieces, particularly those that were in a dormant phase at one point, weren't showing a lot of active base tissue growth, that encrusting growth, if you will, or even the tip growth, to really provide you with that idea, you know, that things are growing well. So with that in mind, the one thing I really did want to talk about today, and to expand upon some of the other talkings, is really getting into some of the myths of the industry, really as it relates to nutrients, and that you're going to kill your entire system if your nutrients get high. I don't believe that's the case. And I also believe that you can allow for a much higher lighting, and should provide much higher and more punch in your lighting, and conversely, the opposite. So in a low environment, you should really bring that spectrum down, right? Think of it like this. If the corals are in an environment where there's a lot of nutrients available, you really want to speed up that pace. So that concoction really helps to build that metabolism, right? And the food, you really want to feed that system in that environment, right? So in that case, you can really jam the lighting and really put that punch, because the uptake is going to be more enhanced, because the corals should be growing faster as they're bringing those nutrients into them, sort of like a plant would do. And the opposite of that, I would say that if you're running really, really low nutrients, I would be cautious of really hitting those high PAR ranges. Now, I don't get into PAR. I get more into brightness and how the corals respond to it. And so with that in mind, I was an adopter of technologies before LED, and so the PAR meters just never really were a necessary thing for me. We were akin to observation as far as lighting goes, and so I just used those same principles when I rolled over to LED, and it worked out fine. Just go soft and then add lighting as you feel things are responding well. So the next thing I wanted to get into, other than some of the myths of the nutrients, right, and that everything will be dead, the tank has been between 40 and 60 as far as nitrates, and 0.2 to 0.4 on phosphates, ppm that is. And so those are really high nutrients. And in my older days of reef keeping, I might have thought, that's way too high, I'm going to kill everything, and I probably did end up killing things because I was actually trying to reduce those. So let's really jump into a little bit of that today, some of the myths, some of the misunderstandings, or perhaps outright fabrications. Another one that I've never really gotten into is, I would like for you, the audience, to sort of tell me where you think my alkalinity for ESV pull is per day on Alk and Calcium. Based on what you see here, based on a 30-gallon tank that has frags in it, probably about, I don't know, about 25 frags in it. Based on what you see here, 75-gallon system, a 112, and a 30-gallon frag tank. Let's go with 200 gallons, all right? What do you guys think my ESV Alk and Calcium consumption is per day? Whatever you're thinking right now, throw it in the comments. Just do that for me. Because I'm going to tell you that you're going to be very surprised when you hear about what my daily requirements are for replenishment of calcium and alkalinity. So I'll tell you what, let's move on with some other talking points, and at the end, let's see if people actually do put those in the comment field, what your guess is on what I am dosing on alkalinity, milliliters per day, on alkalinity and calcium on a 200-gallon system with all the acros you see right here. All right, so let's jump into crushed coral. Are you guys familiar with it? The industry says you can't use crushed coral, that it's a nitrate trap. And they've tried to get people away from using that as a substrate. Now you see that it's a substrate in my system, right? And it's here because I want to add different gradients of sand so that as the system matures, all of the animals can sort of work that sand in, and it becomes really natural. It also helps to calm the flow in certain areas and keep it from dusting up and become a sandstorm. Specifically, as you can see, a lot of sand around the Bommie. So, let me stand up before I fall asleep. So with that in mind, you can see that the design was a real centerpiece here, and I wanted to have plenty of sand. And given the tank is only 20 inches in depth, and there's two return nozzles pushing at the Bommie, I truly believe that that's all that's like required here, really for flow. But as you can see over here, I have the largest J-bows that are available. And those are only on number 1 speed on the, what is that? The, it's the ELISE, right? Which is random. So it's like a hard push and it backs off and it gives another hard push, a soft push, a hard push. It's kind of random. I like that with that pushing out towards the glass. Now, some of the corals that I lost, which I didn't catch on to, and I did notice I was having another issue with a coral. All the corals that have been up front here when I was on level 2 with those 2 pumps suffered some sort of basal necrosis on the tissue at the base. And so I thought about it, and I'm like, I need to calm those down. What's happening is there's such an underflow, right? There's a lot of crushed coral here and a lot of rubble here, but it's so heavy of a flow coming in that it's ripping, and I believe I was causing issues with just irritated tissue and not catching it, because, you know, sometimes we take our eye off the tank. I would recommend you don't. My lack of observation, keen observation on a daily basis, the fact that I didn't notice that, it's kind of shame on me, really, because I could have probably caught it and not lost that coral. Now, it's still here, it's just the base, and I clipped off the top because I was noticing, you know, the tissue was blowing away, and I needed to get that out of the system. I don't need any nuclear warfare going into the system as far as tissue flying all over. So anyway, the crushed coral adds that different variation of size, and that keeps things kind of calm in the system. Now, I thought as a treat, we talked about colors and, you know, what my biggest driving force is on colors. So I must say that, you know, that my fish are definitely, hey guys, check it out. Check it out. Come on. There's my copper band. This one's super cool. When I put my fingers in, he usually comes up and starts nipping. There you go. See there? Even my female clown. Look at how big she is. I think she's got eggs in the system right now, so she is super, like, mean right now. She's such a beautiful fish, though. And, you know, sometimes we look over the fish and we look past them because we get so stuck on coral. And right now, I'm really in love with all parts of the reef again, and it just takes me back to when I began, and, you know, like, even the smallest little critters in the system really, you know. But anyway, I'm kind of like losing focus feeding here as we were talking about the different sand sizes, and I asked that question to you about the alkaline and calcium. So here we go. Thanks for staying around. So yeah, I'm only putting 24 mLs of alk per day and 16 of calcium in the system per day, and that's on a 200-gallon system with all these acros that you see here. And I know you're probably calling horse shit right now, but I'm going to tell you that here's another industry myth. If you want to save yourself a little money on, especially when your tank is young, now, if you do so when your tank is young, keep in mind that you're going to need to let things really settle before you throw acros. So I wouldn't throw crushed coral until later in the game when the acros are actually pulling on ions, but I'm not sure what's happening. I'm not scientific, and I'm not going to go there. Now, thank you to some of the crowd out there that's commenting that are scientific. I appreciate your feedback. Remember, in the end, it's what you can present, not what you can talk about. It's what you can present. Because with me, everything is all derived from a man-made concept. And so when I think of things, I think beyond what a man-made concept would be, and realizing that man has often been compromised throughout history. So could some of these things that we hold as truths, that we've been indoctrinated to hold as truths, could some of these things actually not necessarily be truths? Maybe these are, another one's perception, right? And your truth can be based on your perception. Excuse me. So with that in mind, I appreciate all the data, the scientific, the mathematics, and all of that stuff. You guys, I really do appreciate you being here. Please geek out, nerd out, whatever you want to do, because in the end, I am one too. I'm more so with the soil right now than I am with the reef, but with my health and the gut biome, I'm interested in all of it, superfoods, you name it, okay? Working out, all of that stuff. So my time can't just be reef related. So with that being said, you guys are there to help, you know, fill those gaps in. So please comment. But again, be nice. You know, some of us aren't scientific, you know, and those who aren't scientific, be nice to those who are, right? Let's love one another. All right, you get the picture, right? All right, cool. I'm not dosing a lot because crushed coral somehow is releasing these minerals into the system, and if they're releasing these minerals into the system, I want to go back to Reefaholic and the comment that was made about it is absolute necessary to have trace elements in the system, and he's very much right. It's the same thing with the soil, man. Got to have those trace minerals. They got to be in the system, right? However, I don't hold on to all of these truths that you have to dose trace minerals, and I don't. Because every time I dose them, I run into an issue. And I now kind of put this all together in my mind because years ago I had crushed coral and the same thing happened in another system. So I'm not giving you this information just based on this experience. I'm giving you this information based on my second experience using crushed coral. I didn't dose for 1 year with over 30 acros that grew from 1 inch to over 3 or 4 inch mini colonies, and I did not dose 1 drop of alkalinity for a year. Okay? And I'm not making that shit up. So with this system, I'm only dosing 25 milliliters a day, 24 milliliters a day rather, to this system of alkalinity from ESV. Now it is concentrated, but that isn't very much, y'all. That should be upwards of 80, 100, maybe even 120. So they're growing, corals are growing, you've watched the videos, you see things are growing, so the ions are definitely there, so there's something tugging at them. So how am I only having to dose that much but the corals are growing? How did I not have to dose it for 1 year in my 60 gallon that was right here in the same spot? How come? Crushed coral. That's how. So what is a calcium reactor? It's just a freaking cylinder. What's the difference between a freaking cylinder that's bringing in CO2 when the system has CO2? So could it be that the CO2 in the system is activating and helping to dissolve and release those minerals back into the system? Could it be? That's a question for y'all. I will tell you this. You're probably going to say, I'm crazy. That's totally cool. I can deal with that. But I can tell you for a fact, that's what I dose. I can show you on my doser. And I do not dose Calcawasser anymore. So take that variable away. All right? So I just want to show that not every single way out there is the way. We can get there so many different ways. In fact, I'm continuing to have discussions, private messages with my boy Jesse, Sweet Reef Corals, my boy Hudson Reefer, Nick, that's like my brother right there. Matt, that's like my brother. Cole, super smart dude. And CRT, we've been going back and forth quite a bit, and we keep getting further into this whole myth thing, Now, I'm not going to talk about what his comments are, it's personal shit, but I'll say that he didn't argue with me about some of my ideas, right? And he's also on this continued pursuit of enhancing that microbiome and had a spawning of torches in his system. Now, I've had a blasto spawn, and if you go way back in my category, you'll see that. I show a blasto spawn in here. So I've had 1 spawn of coral that I'm aware of. And to have it spawn, guys, is one thing. To have it spawn and actually regrow, that's holy shit type shit right there. Sorry to cuss, but it is. It's just like holy shit. So well done, Alan Vo. Well done, my man. And I can only tell you this, guys, and we're going to wrap this up because there's not really much else to talk about. It's July. Corals are growing. You just saw me feed my babies. You saw that I feed pretty damn heavy. That's why they're big and fat, and that's why my nitrates are high. Okay, cool. But the colors are there. The reef seems happy. Not all corals are happy. And if you can tell me that every coral in your system is happy, shit. Yeah. That's how I feel about that. So, it's super cool that that the emphasis goes into the smaller parts of the system, and trying to see sponges and shit like that grow. And I'm a big fan of the sand for what that brings from a diversity standpoint. You notice I don't have a lot of rock in here. My rock is in a way, it's cryptic, and I'll continue to work on that. But the vast majority of the rock that I have in my system is not here, it's out there. And that's for a reason, because I believe that, and I've always believed that sponge growth and cryptic sumps should be paired with a bacteria carbon-based system. It just fits neatly into that system. It helps to enhance the growth of sponges and all filter feeding animals, including corals, when you're using the bacteria and carbon dosing. To have a blacked out sump fits nicely, because you don't want to go in a tug of war with algae when you're doing a bacteria carbon dosing system. So leave the lit algae system for a different type of scenario. When you're using bacteria and carbon, I would hesitate, me personally, I would hesitate not to use that. Now, that could of course be different if you have a big show refugium and it's a grass bed and it's tons of life. Okay, bacteria and carbon dose would probably be cool for that system, right? I'm talking about applications where, a small area of your sump or reactor is holding on to macroalgae, mostly Chitomorpha. I'd say probably go that direction if that's what you're going to do. If you're going to go carbon bacteria dosing, stay in that lane. And that usually means a sump that's not lit. And what the hell, it makes more sense to add more diversity, more expand that field for bacteria homing, whether you do it through additional live rock in the sump, or whether you do it through biomedia, or whether you do it through a combination of both. I highly suggest you look into it. It's like it stretches your system out like massive football fields of just copious amounts of homing area for bacteria, which again pairs nicely into a system where you're dosing bacteria, and the heart of the system is based on that. I would definitely look into trying to add more biodiversity, microbiodiversity. And with me, I've moved into the direction of not giving a shit about detritus, because when I did care about it, my nitrates were up. When I haven't cared about it, my nitrates were up. In fact, they've dropped recently, but I'm not going to get into that here today. So no more. I don't care. And every once in a while, I'll get in with the shop vac and I'll pull some detritus out. But I'm looking at most of what's going through the system is positive, not negative. So I'm not trying to capture stuff that I feel is allowing for massive polyp extension, heavy stimulated polyp extension, which tells me the corals are gathering constantly. So if I'm able to remove those means that are taking away those foods from the system, that now means that alternate feedings are not necessary. That means shifting up and down parameters as a result of the sock filling, and then putting a new one in, and what happens with that, unnecessary. So that's where I'm at with it. I might have a little sponge where it catches on the outtake of my frag system, but as far as the main lines here, they dump directly into the sump. So, but I have 2 protein skimmers running, so I'm sure they're doing their job of catching stuff. Longer video today. It's July. Happy 4th, belated to everyone out there. Thank you for following along. As always, I appreciate all you guys out there that have been following along so diligently. Share the love, share the passion, geek out on the Acropora. It's the fun part of the hobby, in my opinion. Yes, it's challenging. The whole hobby in itself is challenging, so don't think that a softy tank doesn't come with its set of challenges either, and don't dismiss it as being easy, because they ain't. So yeah, we're all in it together. Much love to y'all. Take care. Peace.